The first gunshot shattered the abandoned hospital's glass entrance before Naomi Ellis had finished tying the tourniquet around Gabriel Voss's arm. Red emergency lights pulsed over cracked walls, overturned gurneys, and the black water spreading across the floor from a broken sprinkler pipe. Somewhere below them, men were climbing the stairwell. Somewhere above them, Naomi's younger brother was locked inside an operating theater with a bomb wired to the door. Gabriel, the most feared man in Chicago, pressed a pistol into Naomi's shaking hand and told her to leave him behind. She looked at the blood soaking his shirt, then at the man who had once threatened to bury her for lying about being his fiancée. Instead of running, she shut off the oxygen line, struck a match, and whispered that if his enemies wanted to take him, they would have to walk through fire. What happened next did not just destroy a criminal empire. It forced a ruthless king to choose between the throne he had inherited and the black woman who had taught him how to feel human again. 3 months earlier, Naomi Ellis, a 26-year-old black woman with tired brown eyes and a stubborn sense of duty, had arrived at Voss House with one suitcase, a suspended nursing license, and exactly $43 in her checking account. The estate stood north of Chicago on a private stretch of Lake Michigan, a brutal structure of black stone and smoked glass surrounded by iron fencing, motion sensors, and armed men who never smiled. Officially, Gabriel Voss was a logistics billionaire whose company controlled freight terminals from Milwaukee to New Orleans. Unofficially, every serious criminal organization in the Midwest understood that nothing moved through those ports without his permission. Naomi had not applied to work for a crime lord. The employment agency had called it a private overnight medical position for a wealthy client recovering from a gunshot wound. The salary was 4 times what she had earned at St. Catherine's Hospital, and the job included housing. She had said yes before the recruiter finished describing the benefits. She needed the money because her 20-year-old brother Andre had disappeared 2 weeks earlier after sending her a single message. "I messed up. Don't trust anyone who says they're helping me." Naomi had spent every dollar she had searching for him. She had called police stations, hospitals, shelters, old friends, and people she had sworn never to contact again. No one knew where Andre was. The only certainty was that dangerous men had begun calling her phone. They never identified themselves. They simply asked where her brother had put the drive. Naomi had no idea what they meant, and each time she said so, the men laughed as if ignorance were temporary. At Voss House, she was met by Dr. Samuel Keene, a nervous private physician who spoke quickly and avoided looking at the security cameras. He explained that Mr. Voss had been shot through the lower abdomen during what the press had described as a hunting accident. Naomi knew enough about wounds to recognize the lie before she ever met the patient. "Your job is medication, dressing changes, vitals, and making sure he does not tear the sutures, Dr. Keene said as they walked through a silent corridor lined with modern art. "You do not ask how the injury happened. You do not enter any room with a red light above the door. You do not touch his phones, documents, weapons, or computer. Most importantly, you do not argue with him." Naomi looked at the doctor. "What happens if he refuses treatment?" Dr. Keene stopped walking. "Then you document that you tried." "That's not what I asked." "No," he said quietly, "it is." Gabriel Voss was waiting in a private library overlooking the lake. He sat in a leather chair near the windows, dressed in black trousers and an open white shirt. A fresh bandage wrapped his waist. He was 38, broad-shouldered, clean-shaven, and unnervingly still. A pale scar cut through his right eyebrow. His eyes were dark gray and flat with the cold patience of a man accustomed to deciding how every conversation ended. He looked Naomi over once, not with interest but assessment. "She's small," he said. Naomi placed her medical bag on the table. "The bullet hole is smaller." Dr. Keene inhaled sharply. Gabriel's gaze returned to her face. "What did you say?" "I said size should not prevent me from changing a dressing." For several seconds the library went silent. Then Gabriel leaned back slightly. "Leave us, doctor." Dr. Keene did not need to be told twice. Naomi waited until the door closed. "You can fire me now, but the bandage is leaking." Gabriel glanced down. A thin line of red had reached the waistband of his trousers. "You always speak this way to employers. Only the ones bleeding on imported furniture." Something almost changed in his expression, not a smile but the memory of one, then it disappeared. "Do your job, Nurse Ellis." Naomi learned quickly that Gabriel did not like pain medication because it dulled his judgment, did not sleep for more than 90 minutes at a time, and received visitors at hours when decent people were supposed to be unconscious. Men in expensive coats came through the library's red-lit door carrying locked cases. Judges arrived through the underground garage. Union leaders, shipping executives, and local politicians entered separately and left looking as if they had agreed to something they would regret forever. She also learned that Gabriel was not careless with violence. That frightened her more than cruelty would have. Cruel men lost control. Gabriel measured everything. When one of his guards dropped a weapon in the hall, Gabriel did not shout. He asked the man's name, the names of his children, and the amount left on his mortgage. By sunset, the guard had been dismissed with 6 months' pay and a warning never to work security again. Mercy and threat came from Gabriel in the same quiet sentence. For 11 days, Naomi treated him without incident. She changed his dressings, checked the wound for infection, and ignored the way his gaze followed her hands. He asked almost nothing about her past, but she often caught him studying her when he thought she was focused on the medical chart. She understood that he was collecting details: the worn edges of her shoes, the scar on her left wrist, the fact that she kept her phone face down but checked it every time it vibrated. On the 12th night, Voss House hosted a charity gala for the city's Children's Trauma Center. Naomi was supposed to remain upstairs, but Gabriel's fever climbed 20 minutes before he was scheduled to address the guests. Dr. Keene was trapped downtown by a highway closure, so Naomi followed Gabriel into his dressing room with antibiotics and a thermometer. "You are not going downstairs," she said. Gabriel fastened a silver cufflink. "You confuse medical advice with authority. You have a temperature of 102. I have 6 aldermen, 2 senators, and the chairman of a federal transportation committee waiting in my ballroom. They can wait while you avoid sepsis." Gabriel turned from the mirror. He wore a midnight tuxedo tailored so precisely that no one downstairs would know he was injured. "No one makes those people wait." Naomi folded her arms. "You do." His eyes narrowed. "You are unusually comfortable testing your employment. And you are unusually committed to dying in formal wear." The corner of his mouth moved again. "Bring the medication." The ballroom below glittered with crystal chandeliers and camera flashes. Naomi stayed near the wall, carrying a discreet medical kit, while Gabriel moved through the room with the controlled confidence of a king entering territory he already owned. Guests smiled too quickly when he approached. Men who mocked him on television lowered their voices. Women watched him with practiced fascination. Naomi noticed the stranger because he was not watching Gabriel. He was watching her. He stood near the orchestra in a navy suit, heavyset bald, with a thin tattoo curling behind his left ear. She had never seen his face, but she recognized the tattoo from a photograph Andre had once shown her. The man's name was Calvin Rusk. He collected debts and secrets for Alderman Peter Caldwell, one of the most corrupt politicians in Illinois. Rusk lifted his champagne glass and smiled. Naomi's stomach tightened. She turned toward the nearest exit, but 2 reporters blocked her path while chasing a city commissioner. When she looked back, Rusk was crossing the ballroom. Gabriel saw the change in her before he saw the man. He ended his conversation mid-sentence and moved toward her. "Who is he?" Gabriel asked without looking at her. "No one." You stopped breathing. Rusk reached them with a pleasant expression that never touched his eyes. "Mr. Voss, impressive evening." Gabriel said nothing. Rusk looked at Naomi and Miss Ellis. "Your brother has been difficult to reach." Naomi's fingers went cold around the medical case. A cluster of cameras turned toward them. One of the entertainment reporters recognized Gabriel and rushed forward, delighted to find the reclusive billionaire standing beside an unknown woman. "Mr. Voss, who is your guest?" she asked. "Chicago has never seen you bring anyone to one of these events." Naomi saw Rusk's hand slide inside his jacket. Maybe he was reaching for a phone, maybe a weapon, maybe a photograph of Andre. Her mind chose panic before reason. "She's not a guest," Naomi blurted. The reporter leaned closer. "Then who is she?" Naomi looked at Gabriel, knowing she had one chance to make Rusk believe touching her would be dangerous. "I'm his fiancée." Every camera around them seemed to fire at once. The orchestra continued playing, but the space immediately around Gabriel went dead silent. Rusk's smile vanished. Naomi wished the marble floor would open and swallow her. Gabriel's eyes settled on hers. There was no surprise in his face now, only a terrifying calculation. The reporter nearly shouted, "You're engaged." Naomi opened her mouth to undo the disaster, but Gabriel moved first. He slid one arm around her waist, pulled her smoothly against his side, and kissed her temple with the intimacy of a man who had done it 1,000 times. "We plan to announce it privately," he said. "But my future wife has never been patient." Laughter rippled through the reporters, more cameras lifted. Naomi's pulse struck so hard against her throat she could barely hear. Gabriel looked at Rusk over her head. The warmth left his voice. "Was there something you needed from my fiancé?" Rusk's gaze flicked toward the security men closing in behind Gabriel. "No, nothing at all." "Good." Rusk retreated into the crowd. Gabriel kept his arm around Naomi until the reporters were pulled away by his publicist. Then he guided her through a private door, down a corridor, and into a small gallery. The moment the lock clicked behind them, he released her. Naomi stepped back. "I can explain." "I hope so." "He works for a man looking for my brother." "You told 30 cameras you intend to marry me." I panicked. People usually scream when they panic. I was trying to make him think I was protected. Gabriel's face remained unreadable. "So you selected the most dangerous lie available." "I'm sorry." That phrase has never repaired anything. He took out his phone. Within seconds, the screen filled with breaking news alerts carrying photographs of his hand at Naomi's waist. Naomi closed her eyes. "I'll tell them it was a misunderstanding." "No," she looked up. Gabriel studied the image for another moment, then locked the phone. "For the next 30 days, the misunderstanding remains." "What?" "My rivals believe the gunshot weakened me. Investors are asking whether I can still control my company. Politicians who accepted my money are becoming nervous. An engagement gives them a simpler story. Recovery, stability, a future. You want me to pretend? I want you to continue the lie you created until I decide it is no longer useful." Naomi shook her head. I'm a nurse, not an actress. You are currently neither. St. Catherine's suspended your license 7 months ago after narcotics disappeared under your access code. Her blood went cold. Gabriel stepped closer. The hospital believed you stole them. You refused to name the person who used your credentials. I assume it was your brother. Naomi's silence answered him. I also know Calvin Rusk has been calling you from numbers connected to Peter Caldwell, Gabriel continued. And I know Andre Ellis vanished after breaking into one of Caldwell's campaign offices. You investigated me. I investigate every person who sleeps under my roof. He didn't steal drugs, Naomi said, anger cutting through her fear. Andre was working nights at the hospital. He took my badge because he was sick and scared. I covered for him because he would have gone to prison. I thought I could fix it. And Caldwell. I don't know. Andre was doing delivery work for one of his contractors, then he disappeared. Gabriel watched her for a long moment. Continue the engagement and I will find your brother. Naomi stared at him. Alive? If he is alive, I will bring him to you. And if he is, I will bring you the truth. It was not comfort. It was something colder and more valuable, a promise Gabriel Voss believed he could keep. Naomi looked toward the locked gallery door where the muffled gala continued beyond the walls. 30 days, she said. Gabriel extended his hand as if they were closing a business deal. 30 days, Miss Ellis. She placed her hand in his grip tightened slightly. Smile when we go back in. Naomi forced herself to meet his eyes. Try looking in love. For the first time, Gabriel Voss actually smiled. By morning, Naomi's face was on every local news site in the city. Some called her a mysterious medical professional, others called her a secret socialite. One gossip account found her nursing school graduation photograph and decided she had captured Chicago's coldest bachelor through quiet devotion. Naomi read that line twice, then threw her phone onto the bed. Gabriel's staff transformed her life before breakfast. A stylist measured her for dresses. A jeweler arrived with a tray of rings guarded by 2 armed men. His publicist, Celeste Ward, handed Naomi a binder containing a fictional relationship history so detailed it included the restaurant where they had supposedly shared their first date. You met him 6 months ago after a minor boating injury, Celeste said. You treated him privately, he admired your discretion, and the relationship developed away from the press. That is disturbingly close to the truth. Good lies borrow enough truth to stand upright. Naomi looked at the diamond ring Gabriel had selected. It was elegant, old-fashioned, and probably worth more than every home on the block where she grew up. Does he do this often? Naomi asked. Become engaged? Celeste's expression did not move. Never. The first week was a performance. Naomi attended a hospital board dinner on Gabriel's arm, sat beside him at a freight company luncheon, and learned to smile while powerful men tried to decide whether she was a weakness, a weapon, or both. Gabriel never touched her more than necessary when cameras were present, but every touch felt deliberate. His palm at the base of her back, his fingers closing around hers before they entered a room. The quiet way he leaned toward her whenever a reporter asked a question, as though her answer mattered more than anyone else's. In private, they argued constantly. You cannot threaten a photographer for asking about the wedding date, Naomi told him after one event. I did not threaten him. You asked whether he enjoyed having functional kneecaps. I asked a medical question. You smiled when you said it. I was trying to look in love. She stared at him, then laughed despite herself. Gabriel watched her as if the sound had entered a room in his mind that had been locked for years. He kept his promise about Andre. His people traced the young man through transit cameras, burner phone records, and cash withdrawals. The trail ended near an abandoned motel outside Gary, Indiana. Gabriel sent men to search it, but they found only blood on a bathroom towel and the remains of a smashed laptop. Naomi stood in the library while Gabriel told her. For a moment she could not move. How much blood? She asked. Not enough to prove he died. That isn't what I asked. Gabriel's expression tightened. Enough to prove he was injured. Naomi turned away before he could see her cry. She had spent years protecting Andre from consequences, from their mother's addiction, from foster homes, from his own terrible decisions. He had always come back bruised, apologetic, and alive. The possibility that this time he might not return cracked something inside her. Gabriel approached but stopped before touching her. My father had a rule, he said. Never promise a frightened person that everything will be fine. Fear remembers false promises. Naomi wiped her face. That's supposed to help. No, it is supposed to be honest. She looked at him. What happened to your father? The question changed the air between them. Gabriel moved toward the windows. He trusted his brother. That isn't an answer. It is the only one you need. Naomi almost pushed, but the rigid set of his shoulders warned her away. 2 nights later, Gabriel woke with his wound bleeding. Naomi found him standing in the private gym, one hand braced against a punching bag, the bandage dark beneath his shirt. What part of abdominal injury sounded like permission to hit things? She demanded. I was not hitting it hard. The bag is swinging. Air movement. Sit down. Gabriel looked ready to refuse, then lowered himself onto a bench. Naomi knelt in front of him and opened the medical kit. When she lifted his shirt, she found that 2 sutures had torn. You need the doctor. I need you to close it. I'm not licensed to perform sutures outside supervision. You are not licensed at all. Naomi gave him a sharp look. I meant that the rule appears flexible, he said. She cleaned the wound, injected local anesthetic and began stitching with steady hands. Gabriel watched her face throughout the procedure. You took the blame for Andre because you believe love means standing between someone and punishment, he said. Naomi tied the first suture. You investigate people and then pretend it's conversation. Am I wrong? Sometimes love means making sure someone survives long enough to become better. And if they never become better, then at least you know you didn't abandon them before they had the chance. Gabriel's gaze lowered to her hands. My father believed the same thing about his brother Vincent. Naomi paused. Vincent Voss was Gabriel's uncle and chief financial officer, a silver-haired man who had appeared at 2 public events since the engagement. He was charming, polished, and widely described as the civilized face of Voss Global. What did Vincent do? Naomi asked. Nothing I could prove. But you think he betrayed your father? Gabriel's jaw hardened. My father's convoy route changed 1 hour before he was killed. Only 3 people knew. 1 died with him, 1 was me, the 3rd was Vincent. Why keep him close? Because enemies are easier to watch when they believe they are family. Naomi finished the final stitch. When she looked up, their faces were only inches apart. Gabriel's hand rested beside her on the bench, close enough that his thumb brushed the side of her wrist. Neither of them moved. You should stop looking at me like that, Naomi whispered. How am I looking at you? Like the engagement isn't pretend. Gabriel's eyes dropped briefly to her mouth. You are the one who proposed. Her breath caught. He leaned closer, slow enough to give her time to pull away. A phone rang in the doorway. Gabriel moved back instantly. His head of security, Marcus Flint, stood there holding a tablet. Flint had served Gabriel for a decade. He was a tall black man with a shaved head, a scar across his throat, and the permanent suspicion of someone who expected betrayal from every direction. We found Rusk, Flint said. He was carrying photographs of Miss Ellis and a set of floor plans for this house. Gabriel rose, pain forgotten. Where is he? Lower garage. Naomi stood as well. I'm coming. No, Gabriel said. He knows about Andre. He came here prepared to enter my home. That's exactly why I need to hear what he says. Gabriel's eyes darkened. This is not a discussion. Naomi stepped closer. Then stop pretending I'm your partner when cameras are around. Flint looked carefully at the wall. Gabriel held Naomi's gaze. The room tightened around them. Finally, he said, stay behind me. The lower garage had been converted into an interrogation room with concrete walls and a drain in the floor. Calvin Rusk sat handcuffed to a steel chair, blood running from his nose. 2 guards stood behind him. When Naomi entered beside Gabriel, Rusk laughed. The bride herself, he said. Does he know what your brother stole? I don't know what Andre took. Don't lie, he copied Caldwell's private ledger. Payments, judges, cops, port inspectors, everyone on the payroll. Gabriel's expression did not change, but Naomi felt his attention sharpen. Rusk continued, desperate now. Andre tried to sell it, then he got scared and hid the drive. Caldwell thinks he gave it to her. I never saw it, Naomi said. Rusk leaned forward against the cuffs. Maybe you didn't recognize it. A keychain, black plastic shaped like a little ambulance. Naomi's heart stopped. Andre had given her that keychain the last time she saw him. She had clipped it to the zipper inside her medical bag and forgotten about it. Gabriel saw the answer in her face. Where is it? He asked. Naomi swallowed. Upstairs. At that exact moment the lights went out. Gunfire erupted from the corridor. Gabriel moved before Naomi understood what was happening. He pulled her behind a concrete pillar as bullets struck the steel door and threw sparks across the dark garage. Flint returned fire toward the corridor. 1 guard fell. The other dragged Rusk's chair sideways as the prisoner screamed for everyone to stop shooting. Emergency lights flickered red. Gabriel pressed Naomi against the wall and covered her with his body. Are you hit? No, stay here. He started to move, but Naomi caught his sleeve. The drive is in my bag, whoever came here knows. A second burst of gunfire cut through the doorway. Flint shot 1 attacker, then shouted that the west stairwell had been breached. Gabriel gave rapid orders into his radio. No one answered. That's impossible, he said. Flint's face hardened. Internal communications are dead. Rusk laughed from the floor. Caldwell doesn't have people inside this house. Gabriel turned toward him. Then who does? Rusk's smile widened through the blood. Ask your uncle. The attack lasted less than 6 minutes. Gabriel's remaining guards sealed the garage and killed or captured the intruders, but by the time the estate systems came back online, Naomi's room had been torn apart. Her medical bag was gone. So was Vincent Voss. Gabriel stood in the center of Naomi's destroyed bedroom while rain struck the windows. Drawers had been emptied. Clothes were scattered across the floor. The mattress had been cut open. I should have told you about the keychain, Naomi said. You learned what it was 30 seconds before the attack. I saw that Vincent disliked me. I saw him watching us. I should have. Do not confuse hindsight with responsibility. She looked at him, surprised by the gentleness in his voice. Flint entered carrying a phone. Vincent transferred $40 million from 3 offshore accounts and disappeared. We traced the attackers to a private security company owned through one of his shell corporations. And the drive? Gabriel asked. Gone. Naomi sat on the edge of the stripped bed. Then he has the names of every official Caldwell bought. He has more than that, Gabriel said. If my father's convoy payment is in those records, Vincent has proof that could destroy him, which means he'll destroy the proof first. Flint shook his head. Not before he uses it. That ledger is leverage over half the city. A message arrived on Gabriel's phone. The screen showed a photograph of Andre tied to a chair in a room with faded green walls. Beside him stood Vincent, smiling calmly. Beneath the image were 6 words. Bring Naomi, come without an army. Gabriel locked the phone before Naomi could take it. No, that's my brother. It is a trap. I know, you are not going. Naomi rose. You promised to bring him back. I promised to find him. I did not promise to deliver you in exchange. He is alive because Vincent needs me. If I don't go, that changes. Gabriel stepped close enough that she had to tilt her head back. I will not trade your life. You don't get to decide that alone. Yes, he said, his voice low and absolute. I do. Naomi's eyes burned. Because I belong to you. Gabriel flinched as if the word struck somewhere unguarded. No, he said after a long silence, because I am in love with you. The room went still. He looked almost angry that the truth had escaped him. I have spent my entire life turning people into positions, Gabriel continued. Guard, lawyer, driver, enemy, even family became a calculation. Then you walked into my house and argued with me while I was bleeding. You made yourself impossible to reduce. Naomi's breath trembled. The engagement was supposed to be a lie, he said. It stopped being one for me before I understood what was happening. She reached for his hand. Then understand this, I love Andre. I won't survive knowing I stayed safe while he died. Gabriel closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the cold strategist had returned, but not the distance. We go together, he said, and we do not follow Vincent's rules. The green walls in the photograph belonged to Mercy Hill Hospital, a medical center abandoned after a fire 12 years earlier. Naomi recognized the paint from an old nursing school case study. The building still had a functioning emergency generator because the city had once planned to convert it into a disaster response facility. Gabriel arrived with only Flint visible beside him, while a second team entered through underground utility tunnels. Naomi wore a wire beneath her coat. Vincent's men searched both of them at the entrance and took Gabriel's gun, but they missed the ceramic blade taped inside Naomi's boot. Vincent waited in the old surgical wing. Andre was behind a sealed operating room door, bruised but conscious. A small explosive charge had been wired to the handle. You brought her, Vincent said. I was afraid love had made you disobedient. Gabriel's gaze moved to Andre. Release him. After Naomi tells me where she backed up the ledger. Naomi stared at him. I didn't, Vincent sighed. Andre claims he taught you never to trust a single copy. Andre lifted his head. Don't tell him anything, Naomi. A guard struck him through the open observation panel. Naomi lunged forward, but Gabriel caught her arm. Vincent smiled. There. That is why people like us should never love. It turns judgment into a hostage. You killed my father, Gabriel said. I saved the company. Your father wanted to legitimize the ports. He wanted audits, transparency, government oversight. He was prepared to surrender everything our family built because guilt made him sentimental. So you sold his route to Caldwell. I sold his route to men who understood opportunity. Gabriel's face became terrifyingly calm. And now you sign control of Voss Global to me. Naomi gives me the backup. Then perhaps the siblings leave alive. Naomi looked past him at the ceiling vents, the oxygen outlets, and the red emergency panel near the nurses' station. The hospital was old, but its systems followed the same logic as every facility where she had ever worked. She lowered her eyes as if defeated. The backup isn't online. Vincent leaned closer. Where is it? In the emergency generator room. Gabriel looked at her only for a fraction of a second. He knew she was lying. Vincent sent 2 men with Naomi while keeping Gabriel at gunpoint. As they moved down the corridor, Naomi counted doors and listened to the building. The generator hummed below. Water pipes rattled overhead. An oxygen storage room stood beside the old recovery ward. At the stairwell, she stumbled deliberately. When one guard grabbed her, she pulled the ceramic blade and cut the inside of his thigh. He screamed and collapsed. She shoved the second guard against the railing, seized his radio, and ran. Alarms erupted behind her. Naomi reached the generator controls and killed power to the surgical wing. Darkness swallowed the upper floor. Before the backup lights engaged, she opened the sprinkler valves manually, flooding the corridors and forcing Vincent's men out of their firing positions. Gabriel used the darkness to break the wrist of the man holding him. Flint's hidden team came through the utility access, and gunfire rolled across the abandoned hospital. Naomi reached the operating room, but the explosive on the handle prevented her from opening the door. Andre shouted through the glass that Vincent had the detonator. Then Vincent appeared at the far end of the hall with Gabriel in front of him, a gun pressed beneath Gabriel's jaw. Turn the lights back on, Vincent ordered. Naomi froze. Gabriel's sleeve was soaked with blood from a bullet wound in his upper arm. He looked at her and gave the smallest shake of his head. Vincent tightened his grip. You see the problem? He would rather die than watch you surrender. You would rather surrender than watch him die. Love makes both of you predictable. Naomi glanced at the oxygen access beside her. The broken sprinklers had filled the floor with water. Red emergency lights reflected across it. What do you want? She asked. The backup. There isn't one. Vincent's face changed. Andre lied to you, Naomi continued. He sent the ledger automatically to 3 federal reporters the night he copied it. Killing us won't erase anything. Andre stared at her through the glass, then understood and began laughing. It was another lie, but Vincent could not know that. For the first time, panic cracked his elegance. He shifted the gun toward Naomi. Gabriel drove his head backward into Vincent's face. The gun fired. Naomi ducked. Gabriel and Vincent crashed into the flooded corridor, fighting for the weapon. Vincent reached for the detonator in his coat. Naomi opened the emergency oxygen valve and threw the ceramic blade across the wet floor. Gabriel caught it, cut the detonator strap from Vincent's wrist, and kicked the device away. A muzzle flash burst from the stairwell as one of Vincent's wounded guards fired toward them. Naomi struck the alarm box with a metal extinguisher. Sparks jumped into the oxygen-rich corridor. A wall of flame roared between them and the gunman, forcing him backward. Gabriel dragged Vincent away from the fire and pinned him against the floor. He raised the blade. Vincent coughed blood and smiled. Do it, prove you are still your father's son. Gabriel's hand tightened. Naomi reached him through the smoke. Gabriel, he looked at her. Don't give him the ending he chose for you. For several seconds, rage and grief warred in his face, then Gabriel lowered the blade. Flint arrived with 2 loyal guards and took Vincent into custody. Naomi disarmed the explosive with guidance from a bomb technician over the radio. When the operating room door finally opened, Andre fell into her arms. He was thinner, injured, and shaking, but alive. Behind them, Gabriel sat against the wall while blood ran down his sleeve. Naomi crossed the corridor and knelt beside him. You're bleeding again, she said. His face was pale, but his eyes softened. You seem to find me that way. She pressed both hands over the wound. And you keep giving me work. Sirens approached outside. Federal agents had received the ledger 30 minutes earlier because Flint had copied the drive before allowing Vincent to believe he stole the only version. Caldwell's network was collapsing across the city. Judges, officers, and port officials were being arrested before dawn. Gabriel looked past Naomi at Andre, then back at her. Your brother is safe. You kept your promise. I intend to keep another. What promise? That the engagement would end when it stopped being useful. Naomi's expression fell before he continued. The lie is no longer useful, Gabriel said, so the next time I ask, I will mean it. 6 weeks later, Gabriel stood before the board of Voss Global and surrendered control of every illegal route his father had built. He kept the legitimate freight company, opened its records to federal monitors, and created a restitution fund for neighborhoods damaged by Caldwell's corruption. Men who had once feared his empire called the decision weakness. Gabriel did not care. For the first time, he was building something he did not need blood to defend. Andre entered a protected cooperation agreement and began serving community service while completing addiction treatment. Naomi's nursing suspension was reviewed after the truth about her stolen credentials emerged. St. Catherine's offered her position back, but she chose the trauma center funded by the gala where the lie had begun. On the hospital rooftop, Gabriel found her at sunset. No cameras waited, no publicist had prepared a story. He carried the same antique ring she had worn during their false engagement, but this time he did not place it on her finger. He lowered himself carefully onto one knee, still stiff from the bullet wound, and asked whether she would choose him without fear, debt, or a contract between them. Naomi made him wait long enough to remember every argument he had ever lost. Then she smiled and said yes. The city would later tell the story as if a frightened nurse had accidentally trapped a ruthless billionaire with one desperate lie. But the truth was far more dangerous. Naomi had not softened Gabriel by pretending to belong to him. She had forced him to understand that love was not ownership, protection was not control, and loyalty without conscience was only another kind of prison. And when Gabriel Voss finally slipped the ring onto the hand of the black woman who had walked through gunfire for her brother and through fire for him, he knew she had not merely saved his life. She had given him one worth living. If this story kept you watching, share the moment that surprised you most in the comments, and subscribe for more powerful stories of danger, betrayal, justice, and unexpected love.